I would now like to introduce our panel in a little more detail. So our first panelist this afternoon is Mr. Anantha Radhakrishnan, CEO and Managing Director of Mphasis. Radha, nice to see you. I have had the pleasure of obviously visiting Mphasis, as I mentioned earlier, and thank you for your hospitality. Radha is extraordinarily accomplished in terms of his time as CEO of Mphasis, and indeed was prior to that COO managing global operations. He has played multiple roles indeed in Mphasis BPM, spanning technology, transformation, enterprise capability and global centres management, working with clients in their transformation journey, enhancing business value delivered. And I know, Radha, also you're a strong practitioner in heart and head, and you formulated the 4 E's, and we very much maybe look forward to hearing a bit of those 4 E's coming in during the course of our discussion. We have with us also this afternoon Deepak Chowdhury. It's great to see you again, Deepak. Deepak is country manager for Tata, for TCS, and indeed Deepak has been with Tata Consultancy Services for the past 20 years and took over as country head in August 2018. Deepak, I know because you've had a very significant expansion in Ireland in recent times through your partnership with Primerica in Donegal, and I want to touch on that in a few moments and hear more about what that has meant and why Ireland, obviously, for TCS. But before we come back to that, maybe just introduce John Cormican, a very good friend of IDA, I might say, General Manager of Vehicle Engineering at Jaguar Land Rover Ireland. John, you're very welcome this afternoon. John has been key to developing and setting up JLR and its software engineering operation in Shanahan since 2017, and has been leading the US software engineering in Portland since 2018. The teams play an important role in realising JLR's vision towards electric and automated driving vehicles through connected services, data and software. John started his career as a software engineer in Peercom and Tel Labs, and also spent 15 years at Intel, where he was Director of Automotive Business Development. So you're all very welcome. We have lots to discuss. Radha, I'm going to come back to you first and ask you, what has the pandemic meant for your company? How has it impacted globally, and what is the future post-pandemic in terms of the way we work?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Tanaz, and of course, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Sir Tanaste. Thank you. Wonderful to have Deepak and John as well in this panel. Great question, Martin. While the pandemic has thrown up challenges, it's also thrown up tremendous opportunity. An overnight shift to the virtual world and hybrid operating model, with a bulk of our workforce, both in Ireland and across the globe, moving to a virtual work-from-home model. We have clearly seen COVID behave like the chief digital officer for a lot of our clients. It's accelerated digital transformation. It's brought out new investments, focus on conserving cash, cost optimization to make organizations a lot more agile and a live enterprise to respond to these challenges. It has meant new opportunities have come our way. Of course, by sector, this has been different, but at an overall Infosys group level, which is our consulting, technology, and business process management arm, we've given a guidance of 4 to 5% for this year in terms of growth. Specifically, BPM business, which I head, has shown good growth. We would end the year with a growth anywhere between 13 and 14%.
That's phenomenal growth. Thank you, Radha, for sharing that with us. Maybe I'll go with the same question to Deepak in terms of the impact on your business, Deepak. But obviously, you've also expanded in Ireland during that period. So you might talk to us about your expansion in Letterkenny.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and a very warm welcome and hello to everyone here. And yes, TCS has been in Ireland for long, since 2001, and has been serving about 30 customers, both Irish companies and global companies. And last year, although we had a pandemic, it was a phenomenal big step for TCS in Ireland. And I'm very pleased with the investment what TCS has done in Ireland in the last year, where we had about 1,500 highly skilled Primerica employees join into TCS family in Ireland. So we are very excited about this move, and we have welcomed them, and we are very impressed with the deep technology and business skills which this has added to our business in Ireland. So you asked us in terms of what next steps do you see? Yeah, well, we are looking at this as setting up our first Irish global delivery center in Ireland here. And this will provide TCS customers with multifunctional end-to-end digital services, operations, and drive innovations and competitiveness. And we have recently also seen some good wins in the Irish market, which gives me a lot of confidence that we can do more in this market. So I've also seen that the investments that we have made in Ireland through Letterkenny is a huge reflection on how we see Ireland. The good set of talent that Ireland is able to provide. We have access to large conglomeration of industries and the companies in the region. The ecosystem that Ireland fosters, right from academical institutes to various industry bodies, innovation culture, the startups. Antonis also touched upon some of the key benefits of Ireland, which we can clearly see. The UK Common Travel Agreement, the free movements, the support that's available. So in summary, this is a great strategic investment from TCS in Ireland, and we are looking very optimistically to the future here. We do see a strong growth taking place across business for TCS. We see a strong demand from UK, Europe, and within Ireland as well. And we are hoping that with this Irish Development Center, we are able to provide for those growth areas.
Thank you very much, Deepak, for that. And it's just great to hear about your plans in Ireland. And we very much look forward to working with you on those plans. John, if I can turn to you, we've seen obviously phenomenal growth in JLR's activity in Ireland over the past number of years. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Sure. Thanks, Martin. So yeah, we started off here, Martin, about nearly 4 years ago in May of 2017. We had a handful of engineers starting off, about 12 people. All happened to be coming from Intel at the time, ex-Intel people. And now we have something like 250 people here in Shanahan. So it's been fairly significant growth for us in a short space of time. We would have been probably more if it wasn't for the pandemic. We have to be careful and a little bit deliberate and strategic in our thinking in terms of hiring, especially over the last 12 months, because it's very challenging to bring new people into a business when they're completely remote, working from home. We're still doing that, and we take great care over that, but nonetheless, it's a challenge. And the big thing for us, like everybody else, is having to adjust to the new way of working in the last 12 months. And thankfully for us, I'm very proud of the team here, largely with software engineering is a capability that can be done largely from home. So we've been successful in delivering our programs and our projects over the last 12 months. But of course, we still want to bring people together when it's the right thing to do. So yeah, we're thinking very carefully now about what the future is in terms of what do we need in terms of infrastructure, in terms of supports, in terms of defining our culture post-COVID, because these are all big questions that we all have to answer. Instead of putting millions of euros into glass and concrete and new buildings, we'll put the money into our people, into our teams, and perhaps use the investment for things like a larger infrastructure for our vehicles, or new testing grounds to do specific use case testing for autonomous driving. So it's really made us radically rethink our strategy in terms of investment, in terms of people, in terms of culture. But nonetheless, I also think it's a huge opportunity because we've learned quite a lot. We've learned a huge amount over the last 12 months. COVID has forced us into a certain way of working, and now we must take the best of what we've learned in the last 12 months, take that forward into a new way of working in terms of the future. So I think, yes, it's been a challenge, but it's also forced us to learn a lot and radically rethink our strategy.
Thank you, John, for that. I think definitely lots to think about. And just on that, Radha, when you think about the future of work, will we need offices in that future? Or to what extent will we need offices?
Well, Martin, the definition of work, the definition of the workplace, and the definition of the worker, all of this is undergoing significant change. It's important for us to realize it. Just to give you a flavor, in Ireland, we have 8 centres already across Dublin and Waterford and Wexford and Clonmel and Craigavon. So we have approximately 1,800 employees. And we have now moved these employees, more than 90% are working from home. Clearly, the opportunity is to attract more talent, which are gig worker based, specialist, high skilled resources who are willing to spend some time carrying out specialized work in a business process on cloud model, enabled through cloud technologies. Clearly, the work itself is going to become a combination of digital plus human coming together. I call it digital plus humanware coming together, and our ability to automate the transaction, eliminate a lot of the straight through process work, and clearly handled exceptions by using analytics and applied AI to solve, along with domain expertise and design thinking with a lot of empathy, is what is going to be the definition of work for the future.
For that very thoughtful response. Tánaiste, I might come back to you for a moment. It's just literally a little over a year since you, as then Prime Minister, stood up in Washington. I think I was in Washington at the same time, and you announced we were going into lockdown. We have learned so much since then in terms of what we can actually do remotely and virtually. And as the government thinks about, I suppose, the medium term and post the pandemic, what do you think it will mean in terms of the types of investments that we will need to make? Will it be different to the investments we had to make previously in terms of infrastructure and so on?
Yeah, but answer that in 1 minute. But just before I do, just a reflection I had listening to Deepak and Radha and John and Tanaz. And one thing that really hit me by your contributions there was the extent to which Indian firms have invested in all parts of Ireland. Because a big challenge that I have as a member of government is to get people to think of investing in places other than Dublin. And emphasis is big in the southeast. TCS has done what you've done in Letterkenny in the northwest, taking on Primerica there, and Jaguar Land Rover is very much in Shannon. So, we often feel that investments outside Dublin are worth almost twice as much as the ones inside Dublin, at least politically, if not financially or economically. And we're very grateful for the fact that Indian firms have done exactly that, and we want to see more of that into the future. But to answer your question, I think what the pandemic has probably done is accelerated changes that were happening anyway in our society and our economy. And we always talk about the twin transition, which is digital and green. And digital is obviously being sped up, and we were investing anyway in high-speed broadband. Within 5 to 7 years, every home farm business in Ireland will have fibre. We're one of the few countries to do that. That now looks like a really good investment now, even though it was quite controversial a year or two ago when we decided to do it. And then also, obviously, we'll be accelerating our climate action and things like remote working, things like making sure data centres are powered by renewable energy as opposed to fossil fuels. All of those things now, I think, become more important and become accelerated. But one thing government will definitely do is to invest in capital. After the last financial crisis 10, 12 years ago, we had to pare back investment infrastructure very, very steeply. We're in a different place now because of the policy of the ECB, because our budget was in surplus before the pandemic. We're not going to cut back on public infrastructure spending. We're actually going to increase it over the next couple of years.
Thank you very much, Tánaiste. I might just come back to something that you were discussing, John, before when you in your last intervention. Which technologies are going to be the most important going forward for Tata JLR?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, I guess, Martin, and I think we've touched on it already. I mean, for me, it's about data. It's really about understanding the data that our vehicles generate and how to make the most of that intelligence, if you like. And there's several technologies that can be used to make the most of that. So I know, for example, Deepak and the team have a big software team, as do we, in terms of managing that data and creating connected services around that. So things like machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud services, cybersecurity. Functional safety is important for us because we've got to keep our passengers safe in our vehicle, as well as the real world scenario of driving vehicles autonomously, for example. So there's lots of underlying technologies that feed into what we're doing. It's not just about the car. And that's why Ireland, to me, is very important, because we have a very vibrant ecosystem here of software, of technology, together with the folks in India. And that's a huge strength for us, because, as I say, the future vehicle is not just about brakes and calipers and body control and chassis and the traditional mechanical world, if you like. It's about software, it's about electronics, it's about managing data, it's about managing services, and software is the glue that kind of binds all that together. And that's why essentially Jaguar Land Rover is here in Ireland, because we can access that vibrant ecosystems, and we can do things very, very quickly to develop new services. So that's probably a very short answer to what could be a very long question if I had more time. But I'd certainly think that the data and machine learning, artificial intelligence would be top of my list right now.
Thanks, John. I think that's a very concise answer to what is a very, I have to acknowledge, very probably challenging question at the best of times. And it's something obviously we try to give a lot of thought to here at IDA. Deepak, I might ask you to comment on the similar question, but also, Deepak, you might talk to us about the importance of talent and the availability of talent to the work of TCS.
No, absolutely. And what we have seen is COVID has had a huge impact, and it's changed the way we look at work. We have seen that people can work remotely, and it's brought a paradigm shift in the very nature of work. And what companies are doing is we are fully trying to tap into the talent cloud. How can we effectively leverage a number of new age technologies and offer equal opportunities across geography, gender, or also this helps us to even go across, like within Ireland. If you go to see within Northwest, the investments that TCS has done there, we see a great opportunity for this talent to provide services anywhere within Ireland, or it could be even at a global scale. This center that we have invested in was already providing services to US customers, but we are now opening this center to provide services within Ireland, UK, Europe, and so on. So I see this also helps from a people point of view. It also gives a good quality of life for people, and as Thomas also pointed out, people are able to enjoy a good quality of life while being outside of Dublin. Much better living. You can live in a large, good house, enjoy besides the sea, and there are some real good, beautiful things which Ireland has got to offer, even outside of Dublin.
Thank you very much, Deepak, for those comments. Maybe switching gears ever so slightly, Radha, I want to come to you, and actually I'll go to the Taoiseach then on a somewhat similar question. On the issue of leadership during this period, it's been, as I said at the outset, a very challenging time for companies, for the teams in those companies, and indeed for citizens across the globe. What are the important attributes of good leadership, Radha, at this point in time, and what have they been over the past year?
Thanks so much, Martin. Great question. Indeed, the global pandemic has thrown us so much challenges across the globe, balancing out the employee needs in terms of safety, health, and at the same time ensuring business operations continue without a break for clients, and delivering great performance for our shareholders. I think leadership has been truly tested. I call this, I essentially can talk of 5 key tenets, looking at my own experience of having led through this crisis and seeing other leaders within Infosys and country leaders across the world leading. I call this the authentic leadership tenets. The first one is to clearly be very mindful mindful of the fact of your own mindset and what you bring and the situation around you in terms of empathy and understanding the situation across the globe in different locations, different countries. It's about serving with empathy. That's the second tenet. The first tenet is really being mindful. The second tenet is serving with empathy. The third tenet is acknowledging that no single person has all the answers. The fact that acknowledging your own vulnerability, the fact that you could be an expert and bring knowledge in a domain or an area, but clearly you surround yourself with people who have the knowledge of the local law, the regulation, data privacy, cybersecurity, the whole bunch of things, a complete range of things on which you clearly need to depend on others. And that you can do only if you have the humility to acknowledge your own vulnerability. The fourth area is what I call as crucibles of experience. Clearly look at your own experience and build resilience and learnings from those experiences so that you can bring that to bear in the way you demonstrate behavior as a leader. And last but not the least, I call this the art of giving. This is about giving time. It's about sharing knowledge. It's about having a larger purpose in terms of contributing towards the societies you live in, contributing to the people who might be less fortunate than you in many ways, and putting that larger sense of purpose for what you're leading your organization for. So I think all of these 5 tenets of authentic leadership, I believe, has helped us come out of this crisis as better human beings, better professionals, and better leaders.
Thank you, Radha, for such a thoughtful answer. Tánaiste, you obviously have led Ireland during the first part of this crisis as Prime Minister and are now leading as Deputy Prime Minister. Are the tenets that Radha has set out, are they the same for the leader of a country as a company?
I think they are. I think I should write those down. That was a really good answer. I might use it next time I ask that question again. But I think the first one that you mentioned, empathy is an obvious one in the sense that, you can't lead a country unless you care for the people in it and are concerned about the people who are affected, whether it's people whose lives are at risk or people whose jobs and businesses are at risk. And then trying to balance all those issues is really difficult. But I think the first one that you said of being self-aware, I think, is really important too. And one thing I've had to find myself having to correct for a bit is optimism bias. Because ultimately I'm an optimist and I think that things will probably get better. And unfortunately, so many times in this pandemic, when we thought we were getting out of it, things happened and we ended up going backwards. But optimism is a good thing, I think. And a big part of my job now, not being in the Prime Minister's office, but being in the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, is to make sure that the nearly 500,000 people who are out of work at the moment, whose jobs have been suspended, can get back to work over the next year or so, and that those 20,000 businesses that are closed can recover.
Yeah, I'm going to feed into that optimism bias now in a moment, because I'm going to ask you about the optimistic future in a moment. But I'm going to ask our panelists just maybe that question first. And if I can ask you, because we're coming near the end, just what are your hopes and wishes for Ireland and India over the next short period? So, Radha, I'll start with you.
Well, I reflect the optimism bias as a leader, especially in a crisis situation like this. Having a growth mindset or an optimism bias is very, very crucial to infuse aspirations, to work towards something better, both for India and Ireland, as well as in terms of creation of high-skilled employment opportunities here in Ireland, and delivering greater value to our global clients, whether it's high-tech customers or ICT customers, bringing the best of digital technology and the best of human elements of domain expertise, empathy, design thinking, and exception handling skills is something which I would like to work on and lead.
Thank you, Radha. Deepak, your wishes for Ireland and India.
Well, India and Ireland have had a long history where each of them have contributed in different areas, as Anthony also pointed out, right from education, research areas. And I see a number of industries can come together. Technology as well is bonding both the countries in a great extent. Innovation, the kind of work, what is taking place as an ecosystem environment. I'm really pleased with that, and I'm hoping that all of these things continue. I'm also hoping that the talent skills that we are looking both in India as well as Ireland are able to come together quite well to create larger value for the customers overall.
Thank you, Deepak. John.
Yeah, I think we have to all be optimistic, right? It's a fundamental characteristic to be optimistic. Otherwise, where would we be? I think that Taoiseach said two very important things. He talked about digital transformation and the green economy. And for me, the reason I'm optimistic is because there's huge opportunity in those two areas. In terms of digital transformation and in the area of connected and autonomous vehicles and electrified vehicles, is exactly where we're going as a company. That's massive. So the skills and the capabilities and the know-how we have in this country, in Ireland, as well as working with our colleagues in India, I think is massive for us. So if we can really double down and figure out, how we can make the most of this digital transformation and this green economy, which is coming, and use the skills and the capabilities and the people that we have, I think we're in a fantastic position.
Thanks, John. I'm going to go to Tanaz now, but it's actually a requirement to come to work in IDA that you are optimistic, and I know Tanaz is going to wish for investments and jobs, and please help her out in that. Tanaz.
Yes, Martin, thank you. But I am just a hopeless optimist. And I've touched on this before. We are seeing a large number of Canadian companies setting up in Ireland year on year. And these companies continue to grow their footprint as well. We are also seeing equally Irish companies working in India, and the number continues to grow. And what is happening is a lot of these companies are coming between the companies that are working with Irish companies and are in Ireland. And I think that partnership is what's going to help us move to the next level, along with all the research collaborations that are taking place in India. We've just not spoken enough about them, but there are research collaborations as well.
Thank you very much, Tanaz. And Taoiseach, I'm going to leave the last word to you, and you can be as optimistic as you need to be.
I don't have much to add to what's been said, but I think this was a really interesting event and really interesting to hear from business leaders. And I'm firmly optimistic about what can be done between Ireland and India in the years ahead. Particularly Ireland's traditional role has been a bridge between the EU and the US, and that's even more so now that the UK has left the EU. And I'd like to imagine that Ireland could potentially be a bridge between Europe and India in years to come, particularly between the EU and India. And really hope once this pandemic is over that I can get out there and get on the ground and meet some of the companies and look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you very much, Taoiseach. All that remains is for me to thank you all for participating in this webinar today. Particularly thank the Taoiseach for his participation, but I also want to thank Radha and Deepak and John and of course Tanaz. Happy St. Patrick's Day.